What's up, everybody? We are back. It is the final episode, possibly, right, Derek?
We'll see. Wait on that audience feedback. Let us know if you guys want more.
That's right.
We want to do it.
We want to do it. We want to come back because it's been a great month. Again, for everyone that's been joining in, thank you for your feedback. Thank you for continuing to engage and join us here for this Finance First series. We were doing it specifically for the month of April because it's Financial Literacy Month. And again, we want to bring you the resources, the information, the tools that you need to help elevate your financial life, whether it's you, whether it's your children, anyone that you know. We all need help in this thing called money. And Derek and I wanted to come this month specifically to put some resources in front of you. So, back with another one.
Yes.
Finishing up the month of April with a very special guest. And Derek, I'm going to let you intro him and we'll dive right in because I know we got a limited amount of time today. So go for it.
Let's do this. So Hassan Thomas, I don't even know where to start. So Hassan and I believe we met 2 years ago, and our last 1 year ago. It feels like two. We've been doing so much work together, right?
I know, man. I know it.
It's been crazy. And so our last guest was Mac Gardner, and Mac actually connected us via LinkedIn, and Hassan and I just kind of hit the ground running, shooting ideas at each other, coming up with plans, and then actually taking those plans and putting them into action. And Hassan has an amazing podcast, a new book that he dropped, and he's doing some amazing things in the financial literacy space. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you guys to Hassan Thomas. So Hassan, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Most definitely. Thank y'all for, allowing me to be on this platform and share some of my financial literacy insights and a little bit of my experiences. So I'll make it quick because even on my podcast, I don't like when people give too long intros. I'm trying to get into it. So basically my financial literacy journey, I've always been financial, oriented, but my real journey started my senior year of college. I actually tore my meniscus. I was a student athlete. I tore my meniscus my senior year after switching to running back to playing safety my first 3 years. And I got hurt, tore my meniscus, and I was really looking for like a new outlet, a new path, a new passion. And, financial literacy, I've always been, like I said, financial oriented, but I was writing my senior thesis. It was about a 30-page research paper over financial literacy. And I was telling everyone, hey, I'm going to write this paper, get an A on it, and then turn it into a book, like for young folks, teaching like financial literacy and different things like that. So I was telling everybody that, and they were super excited. Then my cousin was like, hey, man, you should turn that into an app. I was like, whoa, an app. So since September of 2019 to December of 2019, I did nothing but research. And then I finally put that research, like you talked about, put that research, that education into application, and actually began to build a prototype for my app. And then that was December of 2019. And as I told y'all, I tore my meniscus. So I actually had surgery in 2019. And then when I told my mom, I said, when I get back for my senior semester, my senior spring semester of college, I'm going to meet with some of the teachers and then work my way up to the decision makers at my school. So I got back to Tennessee where I went to college, and it's cold. It's spring semester in January. So I'm crutching to over 15 plus meetings, crutching to these meetings. And I'm just meeting with, my teachers, and then I'm going up to faculty, and then I'm going up to some higher decision makers. And then from there, got a meeting with the dean and presented my financial literacy resources. And then I got introduced to a development team. And that was 2020, April 20. Actually, it's funny. I released my my idea for FYI FLI, what it stands for your information, financial literacy and investing. I released the idea 2 years ago on my birthday in 2020. Wow. So since then, I've just been grinding, met Derek, started my financial literacy podcast, August 28th of 2020. And since then, we've had about 20,000 downloads, been listened to in 50 plus countries. And we're starting season 3 tomorrow, actually. So pretty excited, man. Happy to be here and just ready to, enlighten and inspire and educate.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Amazing. So we got a lot to unpack there, Hassan. That's an amazing story, man. And so one of the things you mentioned was your podcast. And so that's how you and I first connected through your podcast, me being able to provide your podcast to my audience inside of my app. So what inspired you to start with the podcast first? How did that come about?
Most definitely. So, like I said, in March of 2020, when I had that meeting with the dean, I was actually introduced to a development team. But if everybody remembers March of 2020, that's when COVID really kicked in. So it was a big disconnect and a loss of communication between myself and the development team for about a month and a half, 2 months. And I was telling myself, I'm not going to wait and depend on someone else, to have my destiny in their hands. I need to be involved in the financial literacy community. I need to, not name myself as an expert, but name myself as somebody who's passionate about financial literacy, especially for high school, college, and recent grad students. So I knew that starting a podcast would allow me to assert that voice. And then I think another great thing about a podcast is it allows you to be around like-minded individuals, because nobody, if the people listening are not interested in increasing their financial literacy, increasing their money management habits, they're not going to listen. You know what I mean? But the people that are listening, the people that are engaging and tuning into the content, they're becoming listeners, and they're becoming more like family to me, because now we're all like-minded around the same common goal of building wealth and becoming financially free. So that's for anybody listening. I think starting a podcast around whatever passion you have would be amazing, because you find those like-minded individuals, and then you can start building a community of people who really care about financial literacy.
That's the key. That's the key. And again, kudos to you, man, for actually starting that community, starting that podcast, putting that information out. It's incredibly important, right? From somebody that does podcasts also, right? I understand the process of it, and it's true, right? I often tell people, right? We're looking for people looking for us. So just by getting the message out, the people that are looking for you, they'll find you, and and then it resonates with them. So, diving into like the financial literacy part and how you started that journey, Hassan, what were you seeing then with college athletes or student athletes or right, those high school? What were you seeing were their main issues or the things that you were trying to help them with as you started down the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So while I was in school, I graduated with a business management degree, and I had a minor in accounting and marketing. So looking around, at my peers in college, if they didn't receive financial education coming from their parents, then they will be graduating without a financial background and basically a foundation of how to be a successful adult. So think about those majors, think about those students with, the communication majors and the art majors and the chemistry major and different majors like that aren't required to take any. I mean, we didn't even have a personal finance class, but I'm talking about like business classes, finance class, and those things. So that's why I felt, while I was in school, my financial literacy was above average. You know what I mean? Like I told you guys, I've always been financial and business oriented, and just those business classes in school really helped. But I thought about, what about those people that aren't or haven't been in business and finance for, their entire careers or their entire school careers? So that's what really made me think, like, man, this is a huge problem, because we're in college to be prepared. And it's crazy when you think about it, everything we do revolves around money. We're in college we're paying for college. So we got somebody's paying for, either we're paying for it or the government, foundations and scholarships and things are paying for it, but we're paying to get there. And then we're learning, we're doing all that to get a job that does what? Pays us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're doing all of that, but we're getting to that level where we're getting paid, but we're not learning how to manage that money. Like, what type of sense does that make? You know what I mean? We're in it, we're rapping, or we're being an artist or doing anything like that for money. We're in school for money. We work a 9 to 5 for money, but nobody's teaching how to manage that money. Like, we know how to get it, but we don't know how to manage it. And I realized that was the true issue, was people knowing how to, the issue wasn't people knowing how to make it, but how to manage it. And that was the true issue.
Very good point. So Hassan, thinking about your podcast and your audience, and then happy birthday. You're 24 today.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Man.
Congratulations. And so I'm curious, so your audience on the podcast, are you seeing that it's more people that are your age, younger, older? So, and how do you connect with the different age groups?
Definitely. So for my podcast, it's actually surprised me. So my main target audience that I want to reach is from ages 16 to 26. But what I found is it's a range of different, age demographics and things like that. And it's even ranged higher to, I would say the main ranges are from 16 through 32, 33, 34. Those are the main age demographics I see. But we also see demographics from people in the ages of 40, 50. And I understand why, because they weren't taught this information either.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's just a blessing to be able to impact people from behind the mic, because I've always worked physical labor jobs. Like I was at JCPenney when I was in high school, and Kroger, and those different type of physical jobs. But now being able to impact someone from behind the mic, like my grandmother, she raised her credit score from listening to some of the credit tips and credit gems that we were dropping on the podcast and some of the guests that we were interviewing. So to make a true impact like that, just from engaging with these entrepreneurs and entertainers and athletes and talking to them about money, because these conversations that we're having, they need to be heard. Yep. Because there's so many different negative entities and negative conversations that are being had. Just people hearing these type of conversations, Fred Taylor from I Am Athlete podcast says exposure leads to expansion. So by being able to expose, my audience and, collaborate with great people like you and expose your audience to this information, it's priceless.
That's huge. That's huge, man. And, it's funny. I'm glad that you're here as we're wrapping up this financial literacy month, because that demographic that you are targeting, that, 16 to 25, 26, we have a lot of conversations about them, right? Being in the financial services space, and right, I understand it. Just like you said, it sounds like people in their 40s and 50s don't get this information. So it doesn't matter really when you get it. You just have to get it at some point. But specifically that 16 to 25, 26 demographic, there's something out there, and I'm curious to get your take on it. Do you think they almost have to mess up with money before they listen to what we're saying? Or do you?
That's a good question.
Or like, does it sink in? Does the 17-year-old that really hasn't touched any money, that really doesn't have a job, that doesn't really do it, will they come out because they're exposed to this message? Will they come out and do the right things and have good habits? What are you seeing? What do you think is the answer to that? I'll give you my 2 cents afterwards, but I'm curious to hear on your side.
For sure. That's a great question. And I'll start with a story or example of when my dad, when I was in high school, 4 or 5 years ago. So he used to tell me, save half of your check, save half of your check, save half of your check. And he really, and that was great advice, of course, but it never sunk in with me because I didn't know why or for what.
What's the
I know, of course, I know, save your money. You're going to need it someday, but like, why? For what? What am I saving for? You know what I mean? So I think what the biggest thing is when we're talking to these young folks is showing them the pros and then also showing them the cons. When I had my speaking engagement at Elizabeth City that Derrick and I were talking about, and you know how I started it off? I started off by saying, who wants to graduate and struggle? Who wants to graduate and be in heavy debt? Who wants to graduate and have low credit and have to pay high interest rates on a house or high interest rates on a car and different type of loans like that? Who wants to do that? No hands were up at all. But guess what was up? Everybody's eyes were up because I made them think about. So going back to what you were saying, Chris, we have to show them and paint that picture of them messing up and get that through their head to then make them, really realize this stuff is real. Now for anybody, and that's just human nature. Now it may take, one little mistake, but at least let's avoid the major debt mistake or the major credit mistake. If we can give them this, and, you know, they make one mistake that they can bounce back from, you know, that's much better than, you know, having a huge mistake that's going to take 2 years or 3 years to bounce back from. So I do think, you know, it's not a, you know, black or white, but definitely that is a huge key to it, you know, painting the picture of the benefits, the pros and the cons.
That's huge, man. That's huge. The cons are definitely important. So I've had this conversation with a lot of people and talked to them about, you know, we all mess up money at some point in our life. That's why we start getting serious about it. And I'm always just curious the other side of like, is there anyone that didn't mess it up, right? That said like, I learned about credit. I learned about debt. I did it all right. I went down the right path. Like, does anyone have that story? Because I haven't come across anyone that has that story. Right. Everybody's got a money story where they're like, I didn't know that and I messed that up, or right, I learned after doing this. And so I start to think that, like, you know, sometimes I feel like they have to mess it up a little bit. They have to, you know, go in debt a little bit. They have to be like, oh, that's what dad was talking about. Like it has to ring at some point. For sure. But something that you said is key is we can avoid the major mistakes. We can avoid the 20% interest car loan. Right. Like we can avoid that, but you still might be caught off guard with not having a savings account when your engine blows. Right. Then it's going to hit you like, oh, I should have been saving that.
I need emergency fund.
That's what they keep saying about this emergency. Right. Like, so I think it's a little bit of both. I'm glad you said it. We can save them from the major things, but I still have my belief is people still have to mess it up a bit. Kids, youth, they still got to mess it up.
They got to touch that stove, man.
That's right. Got to touch it.
It's all of us, right? We just got to figure it out. Like, nah, that's not, you know, because we could teach someone to save money for the long haul, but you know, when that car is a little bit nicer, when that thing is a little bit nicer, you're like, yeah, I get it, but right. And I think we have to let them work through that process, but still give them the information so they don't make the big mistakes. They just make the small ones that they can get themselves out of. So I'm glad you said that, man.
And so I'll chime in and say this too. I think that's why our Seedlyng and FYI FLI partnership is so important, because we work with the younger students and give them those opportunities to kind of mess up a little bit and test out the stock market and do different things. But then once they graduate to FYI FLI and the tools that you guys provide, it's real life. And so can you kind of share some of the details of the tools that you provide to the students that you work with?
Most definitely. So some of the tools that we're going to provide in our FYI FLI app is a budgeting tool and a debt eliminator. So I'll start with the budgeting tool and what I really, really love about this. So while I was creating the budgeting tool or creating the idea for it, of course, I'm a football player, so I'm always studying my opponent, always studying. So I'm studying everybody else's, you know, budgeting tools and things. And what I found was a lot of budgeting tools are preset and pre-customized. I hated that. You know, I wanted to have a budgeting. So on our FYI FLI budgeting tool, everything is customizable. It is 100% editable and customizable. So I thought that was so important because I want my users to input and spend and only track what they spend their money on. You know, if someone is not, you know, if there's not a, you know, for a young person, if they don't have a rent expense, you know, I don't want that preset field categorized right there. I only want them to focus on what they spend their money on. So that's one of the biggest keys about that budgeting tool, is that it being 100% customizable on what you actually spend your money on. And when I tell, you know, young folks, a budget is not a life restrictor. A budget is what allows you to have fun. A budget is what allows you to save and invest and make sure that you're whole. You know what I mean? So that is what when I talk to people about budgeting, how I like to explain it. And I'll talk about two other features that I really, really love on the FYI FLI app. Is one is the Peace of Mind Fund, and the second feature is our Gather Ups feature. So how these two features really play off each other. So the Peace of Mind Fund is literally just an emergency fund, as we talked about, but we like to call it a peace of mind fund because we think that the word emergency fund brings like negative connotations and negative vibes. And we don't like that, because our goal is to take the fear out of finance for all of our users, all of our customers. So it's so very important that we start changing the diction and changing the wording of some of these, accounts and different things like that to make them more, make people respond to them more, make them feel more comfortable with it. So that peace of mind fund is going to play as an emergency fund, and that's going to put, whoever uses that's going to put them above 70% of Americans, because 70% of Americans can't even cover a $400 emergency. So just by creating that peace of mind fund on the FYI FLI app, you're putting yourself, in a much better place. So that is a major feature, that peace of mind fund. And then those gather ups. So those gather ups is kind of like acorns, but instead of putting that into an ETF, we'll round those savings. So say you spend $1.75 at Starbucks. I know it's never that cheap.
You're all right.
The straw might be $1.75, but so say you spend $1.75, we'll round that up to $2 and put 25 cents into your peace of mind fund, so you're saving automatically. And I think that's one of the biggest keys to financial freedom, is setting up automated savings, because we don't want to have to remember to manually move out, $50, $30, $100 here and there. Let's set something up automatic that we can do consistently without having to remember, and let the technology do the work for us.
I love that.
So having those automated roundups or those automated gather ups go into that peace of mind fund. So every time they spend, they're saving money. So I think those are going to be some of the really, really great features on the FYI FLI app that we're going to be releasing soon.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So one more thing I want to hop into before we let you go, Hassan. You just released, was this your first book that you've released?
Yes, sir.
From college to COVID. So tell our audience a little bit about your book and where they can find it, what it's about, and how they can connect with it.
Most definitely. So I released my first book. The ebook version came out January 4th, and the physical copy that we got right here came out April 4th of this month, From College to COVID.
Boom.
Yes, sir. You got it. Yes, sir.
Got mine too.
I'm left out, Hassan. I gotta get one.
Oh yeah, most
definitely.
So the book is called From College to COVID: 24 Lessons Learned During Lockdown to Increase Your Drive, Destiny, and Dollars. And basically, this is a compilation of the lessons and the tips that I've learned going from college to COVID, starting my entrepreneurial journey, starting the podcast. And it's 5 lessons that I learned from going from college to COVID. And then I've also included 19 lessons from some of the top entrepreneurs, entertainers, and athletes that I've interviewed on my podcast. So we've had over 52 different guests since August 2020. Since August 2020. So I picked the top 19 out of those, of course, to make 24. That's my favorite number, favorite player. And I just turned 24 this year. So
it's a good number. It's a good number.
Sir. Yes, sir. So it is, like I said, 5 lessons that I learned going from college to COVID, and then 19 lessons that they learned from COVID and all of the quarantine period that we were going through. And then I also included, many lessons from their specific specialties that I interviewed them on the podcast with. So literally any page someone turns to, there's going to be value. There's going to be gems. There's going to be something that you can use to realign and refocus your ability to confidently execute. Because that's what I feel like, what was taken from a lot of us during this COVID period was a lot of our confidence, because a lot of people were, had anxiety or depressed or were feeling sad or like a lot of negative emotions. So I wanted something as to play like as a guide or as a playbook, as a manual to help people really increase their drive, destiny, and dollars, and get that back from some of the things that we've lost during this COVID period. And to also show people that, they weren't the only ones going through it. Everybody went through it, and everybody has different lessons. And I think going through this book, if you apply, find 2 or 3 gems out of this book and apply them to your life. Apply them to what you're doing, because education without application is worthless. So if you go read this book and don't do anything with this information, then it was worthless. But literally, I was telling somebody else, and then I was at the gym, And the guy, he was talking to me. He was like, so do you think $25 for your physical copy is a little too overpriced? And I was like, no, because if you read just chapter 2 about Turo, you can make $2,000 a month from the information that I've put in there from the guests that I interviewed about Turo, which is a rideshare platform where you can rent out cars and bring in passive income money in your sleep. So that $25, if you apply this information, you're going to be making $2,000 a month off a one-time purchase. You know what I mean? Yep. So that's why I definitely feel like this book has so much value. It's like I said, a guide, a playbook, and a manual to increase your drive, destiny, and dollars in 2022.
Love it. It's amazing.
Huge, man. That's huge, man. We want to be respectful of your time. We know that you jumped on the last Finance First series for the month of April. Hassan, tell the people, I know they can obviously find you here on LinkedIn, but where else can they find you? Where can they check out the book and get to your podcast?
Most definitely. So you can check out the book at FYI FLI /from college to COVID.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at FYI FLI, but it's FYI FLI. You know, you gotta have a wordplay for the younger generation for your information, financial literacy, and investing. You can also follow me on my personal page at CEO Sani. So that's CEO SANNI. You can follow us at TikTok. I don't know if we got any TikTokers here.
I'm sure we do. I'm sure there's a bunch. There's a bunch.
Yep.
Okay. So definitely follow.
Got to meet them where they're at, right?
Most definitely. So you can follow me on TikTok at FYI_FLI, and definitely feel free to connect. And let's continue to, bridge this gap between education and entertainment, and really let's focus on co-elevating. Let's focus on doing it together, because we have one common goal, and that common goal is to bridge that gap and to take away from financial illiteracy. Yep. We want and we understand the importance of being financially literate, especially for our young folks, because it will take away those, those negative and those bad decisions that can impact them from years, and it will allow them to live the lifestyle of their dreams. So that's why I'm going so hard about financial literacy, and I'm so passionate about it. And I really just thank y'all for giving me this opportunity, and thank y'all so much.
Man, thank you for joining us. Keep up the amazing work. Just as these 30 minutes we've been on, man, you've laid out the blueprint for how to become an entrepreneur, to be honest. So I hope our audience really picked up on that, you sharing your journey, and there was a lot of good information there. So thank you, man, and enjoy your birthday. Be safe.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for having me on.
Pleasure's ours. And for everybody that's listening, thanks for joining in again this month. April Financial Literacy Month. Hopefully we've gotten you a lot of resources. Hopefully you've taken some things. You have some other people that now you can follow, reach out to, make sure that the people that you have and that are out there learning this information and taking it in. You might see Derrick and I coming back monthly or every other week here on LinkedIn. We might show up. We might be reaching out to some of you that are listening in the network to say, hey, jump on and share your financial education or what you're doing to push this financial literacy journey forward. And we would love to have you, love to continue the conversation. It doesn't stop here, right there.
It doesn't stop here. We're going to keep rocking and rolling, man. We got too many people to help.
That's it. It's too many people out there that need this education, that need to get to the next level financially, whether you're 10 years old, whether you're 16, whether you're 26 or 46, it doesn't matter. This information will help you do what you need to do in life. So
got something for everyone.
Derrick, it's been a great month, man.
Yes, sir, man. I'm sad it's ending. So like I say, we got to find a way to make this happen again.
That's it. We'll bring it back around. We'll let the LinkedIn family know, and then we will continue to show up and give you that financial literacy, financial education that you've been looking for. Derrick, before we go, tell us what you're doing with Seedlyng really quickly, and then we'll let the people go.
All right. So as you guys know, you can find us at Seedlyng, SEEDLYNG.com. And we work with schools, banks, and nonprofits. And our whole mission is, like Hassan said, to close the financial illiteracy gap and help as many teens and young adults as we possibly can. And one of the most important aspects of what we do is that our tools are customizable, and I really mean we meet people where they're at, because we have assessments built in that help us to figure out what level you're on so that we can feed you content based off of where you're currently at. So we're not giving you anything that's over your head and anything that's just lower than what you already know. We're helping you maintain what you know and get you to that next level. So that's what Seedlyng is all about, helping you get to that next level in your financial knowledge.
It's huge. That's huge. So everybody, make sure you check it out. If you have a parent that may be interested in helping their child learn a little bit more, send them in Derrick's direction, right? Yep. Some of the guests that we've had on this month can also assist, but Derrick can be able to, point them in the right direction, get people the yep. resources that they need. And obviously with Seedlyng and what they're doing, the great stuff they're doing, really tapping in and plugging in. Because this is the future, man. We got to get people this education, and Derrick is one of the leaders doing this thing. So proud to know you, man. Happy to be on the journey with you, and we got to keep this thing running. Okay,
let's keep it going.